Hey, who is this? Do we know? Huh? Hi. Oh. Hi, Diana. Right. So, it's a great improvement, trust me. Home on the range, ready? Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam and the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day.
We're in the right meeting. That's Marty's voice.
Thank you, Lori, for the setup team, and I can thank John, but I'm afraid he's out today. But thank you for his team for the takedowns. Please stay after and help break down the room. Thank you very much. Okay, a thought for the day from Dan.
Volunteers are people who don't have to do it, and they do it anyway. Yeah. And they do it because it's fun, it's interesting, and it's meaningful.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, Scott Hensey, our greeter. Thank you very much. Greetings. Thank you very much. And now we want to welcome our visitors and guests and our Zoom participants.
Wow. I see Darlene. And there's Barbara Barney, and there's Judy Rice. Welcome, glad to see you guys. And
Our speaker today, my friend Anthony Pesantino.
morning, Anthony. And somebody that many of us know, Jeannie Fernandez, is back in the room.
Hi guys.
Good to see you. How you been?
I'm good, thank you. It's good to be here. I really appreciate the invite. I came because I wanted to introduce to you all a possible new member, if you'll all have him, Chris Meredith. He is the high school district's new superintendent. Will be starting on July 1, but he's doing some interim stuff with us too, just to we have some hires and stuff like that going on. Chris comes to us from Windsor High School, or Windsor School District. He's Windsor School District's HR director currently. Used to be the former principal at Cloverdale High School. And he lives in Rohnert Park, so he's not too far away. So that's really nice that we have somebody that's close by. Chris, you want to say something real quick?
Just want to say I'm excited to be a part of the community and looking forward to getting involved in many ways, including the possibility of joining Rotary, and really want to be engaged and immerse myself in this community to support our students. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Acting President Frank Bauer has come in. He was late, but he is here. I just want to call your attention. You need him to do something.
Should we do that?
Let's do the pledge again.
Yeah, because we're not sure if he's with us on that.
Well, we'll see.
Thank you very much for the observation, Marty. Okay, it's time to mute all. And Zoom participants, you know how to unmute if you are called upon or have something to say. Thank you.
Unmute Diana. Unmute Diana.
Close enough. All right. I think everybody can hear. So, as we all know, Rotary is responding in multiple ways to the crisis in Ukraine. Our Rotary district has a whole patchwork of club initiatives going on. We have a lot of connections to the Ukraine. And one of those connections is through the International Rotary Fellowship of Healthcare Professionals, which is a Rotary Action Group. It has about 300 members worldwide, and some of them are Ukrainian physicians. So on a day-to-day basis, we're getting calls from the Ukraine to England, where the head of that Rotary Action Group is located, and they're requesting specific medical supplies, and volunteers are ferrying those supplies to the border and handing off to people in the Ukraine. So that's cool. And along the way, we also got contacted by the fellowship saying, we think longer term, when this conflict is over, we'll do a little telemedicine, and maybe we can do that now. And I reached out to Peter Redko. Dr. Peter Redko is a husband of the president of a Rotary Club down near Petaluma somewhere, and he had just been in Poland volunteering and carrying supplies over. So we said, let's talk. And he's a member of something called the Ukraine Medical Association of North America. So these guys have the language, and they know the folks in Ukraine, and they're also doing what the fellowship is doing. So there's this huge patchwork of stuff going on. A little coordination would be good. So we're meeting next Tuesday with the president of the medical association, which is based in Chicago, is in Romania today, and also working with refugees, providing medical care and ferrying supplies to Ukraine. So we're pulling them together, and it looks like the launch of a great project. So that's another way Rotary's helping.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Okay, we have two birthdays. Michael Phils, of course, who's away in Thailand, probably cooking, roasting to death, from what I understand. And Linton Hale.
I'm getting a little grayer, and I'm happy with that. Yeah, just a little.
I don't see it.
Well, I saw it this one. My wife is kicking me out of the house on Friday to go down to Oakland, where we used to live for 7 years in a housing place. And she told me that I'm not allowed to help prepare for a party on Saturday. So I get to hang out with friends there.
All right.
Very good. Thank you, and happy birthday. And Michael and Jean McLaughlin on the 16th, your anniversary.
True.
Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary.
I won't be attending the board meeting that night. But yeah, no, we are having our 35th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
We just got back from Hawaii, had a great time, a little wet back, but other than that, it was fun. And I'd like to welcome back Jim Long.
Thank you very much. How about a little word from Jim? We miss seeing you.
He was on the screen.
The first thing is, you need to put the microphone right up next to your mask, okay? And you need to enunciate. So all of the people on Zoom where I've been for a year, it seems, will hear you, okay? So, I heard that this is a club that does community service. And I'd like to join this club and see if I could help out too, okay?
Thank you, everybody.
Good to have you back.
You should have told us, right?
Okay, this is a little something I wanted to put up for making a difference. I would like each of our members to think about what difference you'd like to see our club make in the next Rotary year. You like what the Dalai Lama said? Yes, I do too. I thought that was pretty clever and very, very true. If you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. Okay, announcements. Does anyone have an announcement here?
Yeah, I'd like to make an announcement.
Don't forget enunciate. Scream into the mic.
Kiss the mic.
I will talk to the mic. I like to make an announcement of my friends and my daughters are having a small memorial hike out at the Shell Beach Open Trail this Saturday at 9 a.m. And they have a gathering and hike afterward or whatever they want to do. Some of the people will start at the White Beach at 8 o'clock. They'll come walking over, have their little say, and we go from there. Now, it'll be very nice. So you're all invited.
What time?
9 a.m. at Shell Beach or 8 a.m. at White Beach. It's mostly going to be her friends. They'll be together and say a few words, and then go off and pack.
Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, Jeannie has an
I do
announcement.
have an announcement. I know I'm not a member of yours.
Yeah, very nice to today.
I wanted to let you guys know, I think many of you heard that former member of your club and former trustee Ted Walker passed away not too long ago. He was in Mexico on a vacation, and he slipped and fell, broke his hip, had surgery, and he died in the hospital. So kind of sad, very sudden and very surprising. Anyway, there's a memorial service happening for him on the 21st of May at the community center. His family is coming down from Washington because they know there's so many of us here that knew and loved Ted, that we would maybe want to let people know. So I thought, what a better idea than to let you guys know, because many of you didn't know Ted, so just wanted you guys to be aware. I think it's at 1 o'clock, and 1 to 3 in the community center.
May 21st.
May 21st.
May 21st, 1 o'clock, community center.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeannie.
That's
I'll give for the announcement or for the platform, I'll give $100 to Paul. I'll give $100 to Paul for the invite you guys.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for the donation of the Rotary Foundation.
I've got an announcement.
Oh, I will back up.
You got a new Tesla.
That's not it.
We have a recall on them already.
Good. Hey, Marty, you need to come up to the front of the room, you want to talk like that. So,
Talk in the
I'm having
mic.
trouble, is this mic working now?
Yeah.
Okay. I was having a little trouble with it. If you thought about somebody that you believe might be a good host family for our inbound exchange student from Denmark, then please do take flyers. Anybody who wants a flyer now and would share it with another family, thank you, Kathy. Anybody else? I'm going to put these at the back of the room, and let's please work on this together, as we don't yet have a first exchange student set to go. Or, I'm sorry, a first host family set to go. And we need to get that in so that she can get all of her paperwork in order and join us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. All right. Now, an attitude for gratitude. Looks like Gus just made a donation to the Rotary Foundation, and I appreciate that. Does anyone else have something they're grateful for?
I need my steps.
Okay, well, this is a moment that I'm glad that David got a new car. I'm being Michael here, so, yeah. So I'm glad that David got a new car, and we'll see how grateful he is he got a new car. I'm sorry you had the reason that you had to get a new car.
How many wheels does it have?
You're on from here.
I got no money left. Y'all wanna go for a ride? I'll give you a free ride? No? Okay, I will put $200 into the Rotary Foundation and $200 into the club, because, you know, it doesn't make any difference if you drown in 6 inches of water or 6 feet.
Thank you, David.
Oh, that's neat.
Okay, I feel very grateful. I had a fall on Sunday trying to set up a drape, and I fell just between the sharp corner of a file cabinet and the heavy corner of the desk. And just between them, I have some sore spots, but I really could have been in the hospital. So use ladders when. So I'll give $50 to the Paul Harris.
Thank you. Okay, we have the Laguna High School graduation coming up, and we are going to have a few words from Wayne Britton.
Good morning, everyone. I need to repeat something that Gus said that you didn't hear, but the difference between drowning in 6 inches of water and 6 feet of water, there is a difference. They find the body earlier. So anyhow, as you know, every year we sponsor a student of the year at Laguna High School, and we give them a $1,000 scholarship in a scholarship that we formed several years ago in the name of Risen Wayne Campbell. So that's coming up, June 2nd at 10 a.m. It is graduation, and if you've never attended, you need to do that because it's really a wonderful graduation ceremony that they have there. And if anyone wants to come early at 9 o'clock, you can be an usher. They need some ushers, so I'll be there if anyone else wants to come and help out. We'll see you then. So that's 10 o'clock, June 2nd, and that's at the El Molino campus, and you'll figure it out once you get there. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Wayne. And how many, oh, Carrie has something to say here.
Here, I'll get brief. Read your flow. This is about the June first Friday, a couple of things going on. We're moving it to first Thursday.
Just for this month.
Just for that 1 month. We're gonna do a joint meeting with the Rotary Club of Healdsburg Sunrise. And it will be in Healdsburg at Lo and Behold Restaurant, which is on Healdsburg Avenue. More words will come out. It'll be 4:30 till whenever. Lo and Behold on June 2nd, and we'll get more information out to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Diane, I don't believe it's my position to be able to find anybody, but I'm going to take the opportunity anyway to recognize that Terry Kelly has an investment in which restaurant we would use up in Healdsburg. Is that correct, Mr. Kelly? Sheriff Kelly?
Well, it's a new title, but we won't go into that. I generally don't discuss personal finances. I don't have a Tesla, and I won't for quite a while.
So you don't know anything about that restaurant? Just
I know a lot of it. I know a lot of it. Yeah. it's, my son and 3 partners, or 2 other partners own the restaurant, and opened it in January, and they're doing very well, great reviews. We're very excited.
And it's got a beautiful garden setting. Beautiful, like brick wall, right, with herbs, and it's really, it'll be a nice setting.
And so if you're taking fighting power away from the acting president, I'll have to take it away from you. That'll be $20, thank you. Marty, give it to Marty.
I'm paid up.
No, you're supposed to pay for everybody.
So
You're
we'll talk.
for finding you?
Yeah. But you already got money. Anyway, we digress.
Well, glad to see the Lo and Behold doing so well and can attract such a big crowd.
Okay, I just did want to say, I'm gonna jump back to Laguna High School. How many of you do you think that you might be able to help? Just put your hand up. Okay, great. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Let's see, where am I? Okay, there was a Monday morning hike, and I'm going to ask Joe to talk about this a little bit.
There was a Monday morning hike that was orchestrated by Dewey. Dewey's on the far right over there. Though for those of you who were in the club at the time, he was a member, and we still consider him obviously a good friend of Rotary. Gus and Dan, myself, we went to the end of Peaks Pike. Everybody heard of Peaks Pike? Yeah. So we went up there and then walked through some PG&E property and then some areas that we didn't realize were private property until we came back the other way, which was late by then. But we did a nice 5+ mile walk in about 2+ hours, and the dog never complained a bit. It was great.
Thank you, Joe. Let's see, where are we? We are coming events. Okay, as you can read them, May 11th, the fireside chat, that's tonight. And then the 18th, we're going to have the board meeting via Zoom. The district conference on the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. I'm going to go up on the 21st, on Friday afternoon, Friday morning, and I'll be returning the 23rd, Sunday morning. I don't want to drive all that way back after partying on the 22nd. Anyway, anyone who wants to come with me or share a ride, I'm open, so thank you. And on June 2nd, 10 o'clock, we mentioned the Laguna High School graduation. June 14th, West County Summit, sponsored by the Sebastopol Service and Action Coalition. I don't know that we do have a flyer in back. We do?
I'm gonna go check right now.
Okay, thank you. We should be having a flyer in back. Check it out on your way out. Thank you. Next week's program, we're going to have Keith Davis, teenage agent in East Berlin. That'll be Wednesday, the 18th. And it looks like I'm ending up a little bit early for our speaker, if that's okay. And I'll see about getting your slideshow up. That's a first for me.
Thank you.
We can get Ken Brandt to help you.
I need all the help I can get. Wonderful, thank you, Dan.
So I'm very happy to introduce Tony Pasentino. He's with the Sonoma Ecology Center, where he's been education program manager for 9 years. The center, you may have heard their name in relationship to, that's the group that managed Sugarloaf State Park in the state park's budget meltdown a few years ago. He still leads trips through Sugarloaf with place-based education as a part. He attended UCLA under Jared Diamond in the geography department, and there he developed a passion for interrelationship and interdependencies of humans in our environment. He's a California naturalist trainer through UC Community Extension, and a backcountry leadership instructor through the Bay Area Wilderness Training. He's worked on watershed education and conservation for an international nonprofit focused Tahoe Lake Tahoe Institute and worked for AmeriCorps at Lake Tahoe on sediment erosion and best management practices. He also enjoys guiding backpacking trips through the Sierra. This year he'll be leading fundraiser events for local groups along in the Ansel Adams Wilderness and up to Mount Whitney. He's also guided many trips in the western highlands of Guatemala, and at the Sonoma Ecology Center, he leads an educator team that provides free lessons to Sonoma Valley elementary school classes. He oversees the Teen and Viral Leaders Program, and he is the Sonoma Valley Outings Coordinator for the Sonoma County Ag and Open Space District. So Tony, thanks for coming. Here you go.
Okay, all right, let's see here. I'm going to depend on my slides here so I don't get too off topic. I can come up here. All right, I pace around a little bit too. Let's see, let me try it. There we go, all right. What Charlie didn't mention is I've been a good friend of the Judson family for the better half of the last 2 decades, and I actually we're going to sneak up to his cabin up in Yorkville this weekend with his son Tyler. So they're like second family to me. Glad to be here. This is my 4th Rotary meeting this year. I think environment is a hot topic in Rotary. Hopefully not for 1 year, but for many years forward, because obviously it's an ongoing topic. For folks that aren't familiar, the Sonoma Ecology Center is not the Occidental Arts and Ecology Center. We are very different. I think there's more people used to that side of town. I grew up in Sebastopol, and so Sonoma Valley was miles and miles away. So I'll teach you a little bit about Sonoma Valley if you're not as used to it. I used to have a mustache, so I'd say, no, I'm not. Yanni, the great Greek musician, but I did grow my COVID hair. I'm surprised not more people did. So I tried to find other people that people thought I looked like, which were basically just white people with long hair. So I'm also not Keanu Reeves or Inigo Montoya, though I wish I was.
You killed my father. Prepare to die.
So a little bit about me. I am a 3rd generation Sebastopolian. My grandfather, Giuseppe Passantino, moved up here right after high school from Sunnyvale. They're Sicilian immigrants, and so Joe, if anyone ever went to Giuseppe's butcher shop out in Sonoma Valley back in the day, that was the spot. My great-grandpa is in the upper right-hand corner, and he was the head chef of Aliota's restaurant out there in San Francisco Pier.
It's just close.
Is it? I didn't know about that.
Just close.
Yeah, well, it went downhill, so. Back in the day, it was good as a fish market. And that's me, the junior naturalist there in the bathtub. So a lot of heart goes back in Sebastopol well before the Barlow became a shopping center. Personal passion, just to give you a little intro on myself, I'm an avid traveler, so I had the privilege of, if you haven't seen it yet, so Mexico City is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, despite what you hear in the news, and it has an anthropology museum, and I'm right there, and you can see that major stone, that's actually the ancient Maya calendar. It's incredible. You get a chance. An anthropology museum alone is one reason to go to Mexico City. There's many more. As mentioned, I had the opportunity to do a volunteer service leading backpacking trips in Guatemala back in 2017. We got to hike up to these pretty incredible volcanoes that are still active. It's one of the most seismically active countries in the world. It's on the basic subduction zone of the Cocos Plate and the Caribbean Plate. So you get a lot of volcanism. Ireland up there, and I won't go too far into my humble bragging, but it looks just like Sonoma County, just a little bit bigger cliffs. And then if you've never been, I highly recommend a little gem for travel. Anyone know where this is right here? Give you a hint, it's in the Balkans. You ever been to the Balkans before? So Slovenia is the New Zealand of Europe. This is Lake Bled, one of the most beautiful lakes in the world. So, enough about me. I like to travel. When I'm not traveling, I've been at the Sonoma Ecology Center, like Charlie said. I started as an educator 9 years ago and kind of worked my way up as a project manager, and then the last 4 years as a program manager. We're a place-based learning center, meaning in your backyard environmental education. So it's nothing you're going to find on Google searches or textbooks. We're going to teach you about right in your neighborhood, the creeks, the forests, the ecosystem. So we provide a pretty unique service. We teach classes in 2nd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So we do a different type of environmental ed. A lot of environmental ed providers are, let's go on a field trip, which is great, you know, get kids outside. But without front-loading with context, basically a 3-day off for kids. And so we actually do 5 science lessons in the classroom, and then we bring them on a field trip and review what we talked about. So some examples of that are we work with the Sonoma fish hatchery, so we get carcasses of coho salmon and we do a dissection. We're doing active tree planting services. We do cool GIS 3D projections on sand models for watersheds. And then when we're out there in the lab, we get to do a little bit of field studies as well. Yeah, I have a pretty good job. I get paid to do it. Not much. Our boilerplate. So our mission, we work with our community to identify and lead actions that achieve and sustain ecological health in Sonoma Valley. One major part of that mission that I'll add is important is we modified it in the last 4 years to say we will work with our community instead of we will work to identify. And so just that 2 words, our community, has dramatically changed the mission statement of our organization. So a lot more volunteerism, community science, adult and youth education, active stewardship. We realized we have 25 staff at the organization, and the projects that we're working on require hundreds of hands, not dozens of hands. And so that's been a major shift that I'm a proponent of in the education program. Land, air, water, biodiversity, it's all important, it's all interconnected. This is an old picture, and some of the folks that worked there about 6 years ago. We have 3 main pillars of our organization. So they are research, restoration, and education. And so self-explanatory research, doing a lot of post-fire monitoring, monitoring groundwater supply, our creeks for pollutants, restoration, shoveling the dirt, get the blackberries out of there, you know, get the pampas grass out of there and get natives restored in the land. And then what I get to do, the best one, is education. Yeah, I always hate to read off the slides, so you can kind of read along, and I can kind of summarize what that means. You know, we're kind of a petri dish because Sonoma Valley is its own little world out there. We've got the Mayacamas and the Sonoma Mountains that kind of block us in. Unlike, you know, Sebastopol out here in the Laguna Plain, where it kind of diffuses into Petaluma and Park and Santa Rosa, Sonoma Valley is this little sliver. And so it's actually exciting. You get to do a lot of research in this kind of easily identifiable geography. And then we try to translate that into other settings as well. Pretty pictures. Again, more humble bragging. So over the last 25 years that our program's been around for education, we've had probably more than 15,000 slides from last year. So about 17,000 kids served from Sonoma Valley Unified and Kenwood School District. We, as Charlie mentioned, are the land managers of several properties. Sonoma Valley actually doesn't have a Parks and Rec district, and so we're the Parks and Rec program providers for Sonoma Valley, and that includes Sugarloaf Ridge State Park. Have you been to Sugarloaf Ridge, everyone, most people? I hadn't gone growing up in Sebastopol. That was the first time I had gone when I started. It's a beautiful park. It's got one of the best campgrounds in Sonoma County. And native fish, we got 2 types of salmon out there, and we actually got 1 return for the first time since I've been working at the Ecology Center. So back in October, November, we had those rain bombs that were coming down. There was enough water in the creek that allowed the Chinook salmon to return to the headwaters of Sonoma Creek up near Sugarloaf and actually spawn again. And so I hadn't seen enough flow to make that happen. Yeah, round of applause for that, that's great. Unfortunately, no steelhead this year, but we'll see about next year. And then we also run a 6-acre farm. called the Sonoma Garden Park, and that's near Sonoma Valley High School. And we grow about a ton of produce every year. And what we don't sell at our harvest market, we then give off to some of the family resource centers. One of our main initiatives, I don't know if anyone's a reader of E.O. Wilson. Any E.O. Wilson fans here? Yeah, Charlie, okay. He's a proponent of what's called half Earth, which basically means we are going through a massive species collapse along planet Earth, huge extinction of animals, the first in this amount of period. And the best way to stop that is by protecting 50% of this planet for non-human habitat. It's a tough thing to beat, but actually in Sonoma Valley, we have about 30% right now. And so we're trying to take it up to 50% if we can. And so that means both private properties, parks, agricultural preserves that are under open space districts. So it doesn't necessarily mean completely abandoned from human activity, but it means co-managed with humans and wildlife. So current land use, there we go. If you look at this little image, this is the Sonoma Creek watershed. It's basically all the areas within the Sonoma and Mayakama mountain range that drain into Sonoma Creek. Won't get into too much. I think you'll all get a copy of this slide, but this is from 2005, so it's changed quite a bit. But with the natural cover protected lands for the open space district and state parks, we're pretty good. We actually have the most amount of state parks probably in any watershed in the county. So if you were in Oakmont, you would have Annandale, Jack London, and Sugarloaf 10 minutes away from you, which I don't know how many people can say they got 3 state parks within a 10-minute drive. I didn't realize growing up in Sebastopol how little access we had to hiking. I got bored of Rago pretty quickly, and then Ice Park doesn't give you much more, and that was about it. I want to figure out where you all went 5 miles because,
Can't tell you.
You can't tell, all right. Yeah, it's unfortunate. There's kind of a deficit of hiking trails in West County. All the way to Petaluma, you got Helm Putnam, you get a little bit here and there. When you head out to Jenner, you get some great stuff out there. But Sonoma Valley, I mean, we've got parks after parks after parks. If you're a hiker, it's a dream come true. We want to not only be carbon neutral, but carbon negative. What you're seeing right here is a new model of burn piles that we're encouraging folks to do. And it's through a high heat pyrolysis. As you'll notice, there's zero smoke above this fire. It's nothing high tech, it's just a structural resorting of the vineyard branches. And so what you do is you create a setting in which most of the smoke has to vacuum through the center of the fire, which then reheats and pulverizes a lot of the smoke. And so we're seeing massive success in reducing smokestacks from the burn piles. And what we do is we then spray it down with the hose. Once it starts to get that white ash, we try to get rid of the fire before it breaks down the carbon into ash. So we try and collect that charcoal, and then we'll get a tractor, we'll crush it, we'll mix it with compost, and you'll respread it back in the vineyards. And carbon can be a net benefit for not only soil, but then holding that carbon that would have been burned off back into the soil again. So pretty simple idea. It's not going to save the world, but it's one more thing to add to the portfolio to help reduce carbon emissions, especially here in an agricultural setting. So yeah, we created an organization called, or sub-project called the Sonoma Biochar Initiative. Anyone heard of biochar? A couple people? All right, cool. It's unfortunate because when it first came out, it seemed like snake oil and all these benefits. You can do this and this and this, and it's like, whoa, okay. Biochar is amazing. But it's, again, like I said, it's a drop in the bucket of one of the many things we got to do. And so essentially what it is a really clean charcoal that is low in volatiles, and it's pulverized, and we're trying to reduce biomass in some of these forests right now. They're congested from post-timber regrowth. And so instead of cutting them and chipping them or cutting them and burning them, we try to convert them into charcoal, which would then sequester that carbon instead of letting it emit into the atmosphere. And then obviously water-wise, we are once again in a drought. It was nice to have that rain last year, but our water levels at our main reservoirs, you probably all saw the headlines in the news the other day, we're at 40% right now, and we are just going into dry season. Drought is not going to be a seasonal thing. Drought is a permanent part of California now. You may have some rainy years, but every model is showing that drought is inevitable in our future. And so we have to figure out ways to survive amongst that. It's not going to be through plastic water tanks. It's going to be through what we call slow it, spread it, and sink it, which is I don't want to steal that. It was from Brock Dolman, who is at Occidental Arts and Ecology Center. Basically what that means, instead of the current engineering system of our cities, where when water hits onto the cities, we are terrified of flooding, and so the first thing you do is shoot it out into a storm drain, you shoot it out into the creek, and you flush it out straight into the ocean. And so all the water from our rainfall is actually getting pumped straight into the ocean as quickly as possible. That system's not working. We need to be able to hold this water and actually collect it. Your plastic water tanks are going to go dry by June, and they won't refill again until November because we're a wet, dry season. And so water catchment's great if you can do it, but it's not the solution. The solution is, unfortunately, tearing up some concrete and letting exposed soil collect the water and letting it percolate down into the soil instead of letting it run off sidewalks and driveways into the creeks. And I mentioned, or Charlie mentioned, one of my first projects in AmeriCorps was through best management practices or low impact design. And so it's already a mandate in Tahoe County, where basically what they'll do is they'll come to your house. I know some folks don't like regulation on their property, but it's for a good reason to preserve water, is that they'll come out and they'll basically drop a hose on your driveway and let the hose run. And if that water drains off your driveway and enters into the road, then they'll flag you. And so what you have to do is cut a French drain, have the water diffuse off to the side, make a little gravel well. There's other easy solutions, just more mulching, protecting around your gutter system when it's pumping out inside your gutters there, or carving out the side of your house. Dig a hole, put a couple of pebbles down there and some river rock, let it fill those basins and percolate down in. So there's some more expensive things you got to do, but there's also some easy solutions you can do on your property as well. So as you're converting your property, hopefully, to a more fire-safe landscape, you're also incorporating a water-wise landscape. And hopefully on top of that, some habitat as well. We do have some systems. This is our research manager, Steve Lee, who's a former UCLA researcher who happened to live in Glen Ellen. And so he has some major cisterns. He's got 3 of these on one side, actually another 3 on the other side. And so he does have a pretty good water catchment system. It's all attached to his roofing. And that fills up by December. And then he has an overflow spout that then percolates into dry basins that will then refill the water system as well. So there are some options if you want to get technical with engineering. Last thing is community leadership. So this is our EnviroLeader team program. I heard the mention of Laguna. Laguna is an awesome school. It got developed when I was in high school. I didn't realize how important it was until now. And these are folks from both Sonoma Valley High School and Archduke Hannah Boys Center, which is another similar program that helps kids that are not doing so well get back on track. And so what we do is we take them out to the garden. They work twice a week doing sustainable ag, and then they do some work at Sugarloaf, do some trail building, and hopefully give them something on their resume or their cover letter for college to get them a little bit ahead in life if they want to get involved in the environment or agriculture. We're hiring right now. This is an old slide, so it's not going to be for September to November, but we do pay minimum wage for these kids. I know it's probably not applicable to you folks because it's a long drive to get up to Sonoma Valley on Wednesdays and Fridays, but we hire 6 students for the summer, and they're out there twice a week working with the farm hands, working with our ecologists, and get some experience for some summer job work. And then our setting, here's Sonoma Valley right here. We mentioned Sugarloaf Ridge State Park. So if anyone wants to do a 17-mile hike, I'll be leading a trip May 21st, which will essentially circumference the whole section of Hood and Sugarloaf Ridge State Park. So many people don't know about it, but there's actually an addition to Sugarloaf called the McCormick Addition, which is on Los Alamos Road, a road you probably heard of in 2020 because it was on most of the headlines of the fire. Los Alamos Road, it's pretty devastated. So actually most of Hood Mountain is still closed from the fire. We have some special access rights. And then we're going to go through for the first time for many folks through the McCormick Addition, seeing post-fire ecology. And there's actually permission from private property that we're going to connect back to Sugarloaf. So there's a 17-mile one, there's an 11-mile one if you're interested.
Is that the same day?
Yeah, they're both the same day, yeah. Not both 17 and 11, you do one or the other. But incredible park. I'm a little biased, but I think it's one of the best in the county. And then I mentioned that garden. So Sonoma Garden Park, 6 acres. Haven't been. It's 45 minutes away from here, so it's pretty far. But man, it is incredible. Right now we're in the current progress of developing a children's nature center. So I didn't have any finished pictures for you, so I thought I'd show or sketch up one day that me and a contractor came up with, which you can't see much of. Some of the conceptual designs is the culvert tunnels that are taken into the soil mounds. We're going to have a slough for water play. It's going to be low water usage. We're going to have musical instruments that kids can bang on. Nothing rubber. I grew up at Super Playground, so I'm trying to recreate that type of playground that unfortunately we lost many years ago. So something that kids can actively engage with is mostly embedded within the natural system. Talk a lot about Sonoma Creek watershed. It's a small little watershed. We're not a part of Russian River watershed out there, so I'll just leave it at that. And who can finish without just talking about the fact that I've been there 9 years. The Ecology Center's been there for 32, but the Wapo people have been there for 10,000 years. So putting that number in perspective, the Egyptians were building pyramids 3,000 years ago. 7,000 years before that, the Wapo people were managing Sonoma Valley. They're one of the oldest languages in California, so probably one of the earliest settlers. And Wapo is an indigenous people that were coming from Napa and over to the east side of Sonoma. And then from West Sonoma was the Great Confederation, which includes the coastal Miwok and Pomo. We are still actively involved with those groups, and we actually currently have an educator that represents the Onosati Wapo tribe that's working with us at Sugarloaf to provide educational programming for kids, to teach them more about the culture out there. They are really well known for their basket weaving, and so if you ever go to the Smithsonian Institute, there is a Sonoma basket of the Wapo people. It's one of the most recognized, intricately designed basket weaving in the world. And so it's so well woven, you can carry baskets of water without a drip of water dropping, and have these gorgeous, intricate, this one doesn't have the design, but you can have some incredible designs as well. There's a representative of the tribe who's up at Pepperwood Preserve, which is near Safari West. His name is Clint McKay, and occasionally Clint will lead a basket weaving activity. I don't think he'll teach you all of his tricks, but he'll give you a little 101 on traditional usage of the land. And then Wapo is actually not the name of the people. I mentioned Onosati is one of the tribes, but once a lot of the tribes started to lose population and die out, they started to congregate into a larger group. Wapo is just a rough translation of Guapo. Guapo is a Spanish word for brave and proud. Unfortunately, well, they held on to their morals and they weren't easily converted to the missions, and so what that meant is many of them didn't survive the colonization. There's only a few people who represent the tribe still these days. So about 500 remained as of 1855, and about 16 years ago, the last Wapo speaker unfortunately did pass away. I'd say there's still some speakers around, but it's a culture that we're trying to hold on to before it is lost from this earth entirely. Just to talk a little bit about the land, I always try to talk to people. One interesting thing is, the Golden Hills of California. They talk about the Golden Hills, summer Golden Hills of California. Well, that's a modern model because the last 200 years introduced a lot of those grasses that created the Golden Hills. So when you're driving out this summer, or even right now when you're out in Petaluma, Stony Point Road, you have these green, grassy, rolling hills. All that grass is actually introduced non-native European grasses. So traditionally those hills would be year-round green. They'd have perennial bunch grasses that would have taps that would go 10, 15 feet down to the water table, and you would have year-round greenery in California. So it's just interesting to look at the landscape and how much in the last 200 years we've wildly changed the representation of plant species in California that you think is a normal, kind of the standard topography of it, but it's actually very much a recent trend of introduced seeds. But there's still plenty of natives, and we really love our area. Sonoma County as a whole is a destination for many and a home to us. So it's pretty cool that people spend their hard-earned vacation money to come play, or we get to spend every day of our lives. So I'm really proud that I got to be put on this planet, and in Sonoma County. That's why I came back from college and stayed back here. I'm sure, about Rotary is always wondering, how do we help? Which is great, because you're always out there helping the folks in the community. Trying to think of a couple things. We regularly do a monthly creek cleanup, but again, you gotta make the drive out to Sonoma Valley. But a big thing that a lot of people are interested in is our creek cleanup. We work with Susan Gorin's office, who's our representative in the district in the east. She's funding all the creek cleanups. Big thing you might be interested in is every second and fourth Thursday from 9 to 1, Sugarloaf Park has an open call for volunteers. Carpentry, weed whacking, there's all different kinds of things you can do based on your abilities. And so, from 9 to 1 on second and fourth Thursdays, we love the support. After the fires, we reopened Sugarloaf Park in about 6 weeks because of all the volunteer outpour. As you can see here, some of the main reason Sugarloaf had to close during the fire was because the infrastructure burned out. So when you hike the trails and there's no border area, you're gonna erode that whole hillside. And so it was phenomenal. Like I said, six weeks is all it took to get the doors reopened in that park. So lunch is provided. We try and spoil people a little bit with some lunch and hang out if you want to meet some folks out there. It's also a good social event. And then I'm going to get to my last thing, because as much as I love what I do, I don't think it's enough for this planet. And so I mentioned down in Guatemala, I work for an organization called Quetzal Trekkers. Quetzal, any birders in here? All right, so Quetzal is a very famous bird. It was a royal feathers of the Maya people. It's kind of a bird list for a lot of people. It was named after the bird. This is down in Guatemala. People from all over the world volunteered to lead backpacking trips to raise money for orphanages in Guatemala. So it was a win-win. You got to go on a cool backpacking trip, and then you knew your money was going to a good cause. And so what I kind of labeled that as impact tourism, because I think we're all kind of stressed out of our minds and we need a little vacation. But is there a way you can have a nice vacation and also give the money to a good cause? And so I did a lot of work out there, took away a lot from that experience, and then brought it home. And so last year I decided, you know what? We live in a tourist area too. I'm sure there's something we can do about helping the people in our community with fun vacations. And so last year I led a group of 5 people from the Sonoma Rotary. We went up to the top of Half Dome, and we raised $10,000 for a local community garden in the Boys Hot Springs area that was falling apart. And so a couple of pictures from that. It was incredible. We got up for sunrise to the top of Half Dome. We had the whole place to ourselves. So you've seen all those pictures of Half Dome where there's a line of people, one behind the other. That's not my style. So what we did was we camped at the base of it, and we got there. I mean, that's the best setting I've ever been in the Sierra right there. And like I said, we were out there, and I guess someone took our picture, so there's 2 other people on the top. But yeah, we had a blast, and we're doing it again. And so 10,000 raised to help out the garden, and then we're doing one this year. It's already filled, but I'm doing a Mount Whitney trek at the end of August to help out an organization in Oakland that buys gear for teachers to check out. So if you're a teacher, you get free access to hiking boots and tents, sleeping pads, sleeping bags, anything you want. As long as you're a teacher, it's free for you to check out for your whole class. And so we're raising 10 grand for them. And then I'm doing one more trip. I'm gonna shamelessly plug it because I think it's for a good cause. But price point's a little high, but all the money goes to charity. It's $2,000. We're doing a 5-day trip into the Ansel Adams Wilderness, which this is one of the most famous areas of Ansel Adams photography. This is Thousand Island Lake. And we're going to be starting at Mammoth Mountain, hiking our way up to Tuolumne Meadows, and it's going to be peak wildflower season. I've already got 2 Rotarians from Sonoma, and yeah, I'm hoping to fill it up. We're going to raise the $10,000 this year to support the Sonoma Garden Park and our environmental education programs. So I think I just have some pretty pictures now. Yeah, it takes a community. It's fun to be presenting at the Sebastopol Rotary for the first time, because again, this is my community, and appreciate seeing you all. I always pass by the Masonic Center thinking there's some conspiracy theory event going on inside the doors, and not realizing it was just Rotarians having breakfast and talking about giving donations to one another. So, thank you all.
That was wonderful, and I thank you very much, and I'm hoping you'll be able to stay afterward a little bit to answer any questions our members may have. And I want to also tell you that we will be donating a book with your name to a local school that is focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thank you so very much. It was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Alt-tab.
Madam President, can I just say one quick thing?
You sure can, while I figure this out.
I know Beth knows, Jim knows.
But a good friend of ours, when we all belonged to the Optimist Club, passed away this week. He was my mentor at Anley High School, and that's Ed Barrett passed away. And you know Ed, I know you know Ed. When he hired me as a vice principal, he called me into his office and said, there's two things. One, keep as many people down in those other two offices that are vice principal's offices so they don't come to see me. And two, never run to a fight. Walk. By the time you get there, it'll be over.
Great. Okay. It looks like we don't have Brian Purcell here today for the joke, but we just had one from Marty, so I'm going to call that good. Thank you very much. And we're ready for Happy Trails.
Here we go. Happy trails to you, until we meet again. Happy trails.